Next up, can we have a warm round of applause for BTC Sessions?
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Ben, and I have been running a YouTube channel called BTC Sessions for 8 years now, creating in-depth tutorials on everything Bitcoin, from wallets to hardware to multi-sig, running a node, Lightning, all of that stuff. And so I'm here today to talk about Bitcoin circular economies and how to begin to build your own circular economy at home where you live. Now, by no means am I an expert on this. I'm speaking from my own experience doing this in my hometown of Calgary, Alberta, back in Canada. And so I'm going to be kind of going through a number of things that I've done, but I'm also open to chatting with people after the fact and hearing what you've done where you are living locally, because I think if we all kind of brainstorm ideas together, then we are better and more well-equipped to allow Bitcoin to proliferate everywhere. So what I'm going to be chatting about today, quick overview. Number one, why do this? What is the point? Why bother? Seems like a lot of work. Should we bother? Also, how do you begin to find your local community? Where do you find the Bitcoiners if you don't know where they are yet? How do you get started? And then how do you take these people and begin to start a movement? Not just hang out and have your regular meetup, but actually begin to build something that can turn into something more. Also, building strategically. Who do you actually want to be a part of this movement? Who's going to contribute the most? Who's going to be beneficial to have in your cohort? And then choosing the tools that you're going to use on the ground when building out your local economy. So before we dive into the nitty-gritty, just overall, what do we actually want when we are using Bitcoin? What's the point? And there's a lot of qualities of Bitcoin that stand out. Censorship resistance, immutability, the 21 million cap, sound money. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin is a means to an end. It's not just the Bitcoin that we want what the Bitcoin can do for us. We want to maybe preserve our purchasing power, maybe have something that is censorship resistant because we're getting top-down pressures preventing us from using our money as we please, and just in general being more self-sovereign. And so, again, if somebody just treats Bitcoin as I'm going to hide away from the world, I'm going to stack my sats, and I'm going to disappear, when it comes time to use that Bitcoin, you may not have a mechanism to do so. And why is that? In a worst-case scenario, on and off ramps can be shut down. So if you've been saving Bitcoin for years, and then all of a sudden your government says, no, you got to put that in self-custody, you got to have the ETF, that's your Bitcoin. If you don't have social connections, if you don't have a community, what the fuck are you going to do with your Bitcoin? You're stuck. You can't use it for anything if you don't have a community and that happens to you. But peer-to-peer relationships, those are resilient. If you meet people, if you create relationships, if you shake your rancher's hand, if you know somebody where you can just go to a local farmer and get your chicken and eggs and milk, if you know your barber and he's accepting sats, that's really, really hard to stop. You might have a local market, and maybe one day the doors get kicked in and they shut it down and they say, you're not allowed to do this anymore. But really, what are they going to do? You're not allowed to be friends with your egg guy anymore? I don't think so. You can go and you can be friends with whoever you want, and if you happen to slip somebody a few sats to pick up a carton of eggs, so be it. So I really believe that the only way Bitcoin can proliferate and win in an adversarial environment is with peer-to-peer relationships. Now, it's worth noting that a huge push for merchant adoption was tried before. Back in 2015, 2016, there's this big push. Oh, we've got to get every big company to accept Bitcoin. Microsoft, Steam, Overstock, Expedia, Subway, Newegg, Dell. Everybody's accepting Bitcoin, wonderful. Or was it? Unfortunately, a number of these companies later on just kind of dropped it. So what's the difference between now versus then? The last time that we tried this, we were trying to onboard non-Bitcoiners, and they saw it as a marketing shtick. They saw it as an opportunity to look like they were bleeding edge, when in reality, they didn't care about the Bitcoin. They didn't want the Bitcoin. They were dumping it, right? They accept the Bitcoin, and then they use BitPay, and they dump it to fiat. They never even saw the Bitcoin. This time, I feel my personal experience is different. What is it this time? It's Bitcoiners. It's people like you saying, this is the better money. I want the Bitcoin. I'm accepting the Bitcoin because I want to keep it, or I'm accepting the Bitcoin because I no longer accept dollars and I'm spending my Bitcoin circularly. So a lot of this Bitcoin, on behalf of people that are accepting it now, it gets held or it gets spent to another Bitcoiner. And it's starting slow, it's not everywhere, but this is the mentality that I'm seeing from the merchants that are making this leap. So, where do you start? Because this isn't just meant to be a story to tell. This is meant to be quasi-instructive. Like, you have homework from this. When you leave here, you don't do nothing. You actually go forth and you do something in your community. So I'm telling you right now, don't go home and do nothing. Go home and you're at least gonna do one thing. And I will tell you what that one thing is. But first you need to find your community. And you need to start local. You need to start with the Bitcoiners that are around you. Is there a local meetup where you are? Check. Meetup.com, Orange Pill app, which is an app to find Bitcoiners in your area, and it has events listed. Of course, there's things like Facebook groups and other forms of social media that you can look on and search. I mean, just Google Bitcoin and your city and see what pops up. And even if it's a crypto event, go and find the Bitcoiners. Or find the people that are just kind of new and maybe don't understand exactly what's going on. Or the people that are on the fence and starting to realize, everything else seems a little iffy to me. Because you can form your Bitcoin community from that. So search, figure out what's around, and if there is no Bitcoin meetup, start one. It might be a little lonely the first couple of times. You might be having coffee with yourself. That's okay. It's got to start somewhere, because if you're there, people will begin to find you. If you build it, they will come, all right? So don't mind having a coffee with yourself on a bi-weekly basis for a month or so, and just start. Give people a place to go if you don't already have one. Now, when you do have a meetup going, when you have a regular meetup, maybe once a month, maybe every couple weeks, the cadence doesn't really matter as long as you set something out. What I've started doing, I have a local meetup back in Calgary. I'm not the organizer, but what I did is I went to the organizer and I said, hey, I've got a special request. Every time we start this meetup, could we just take 5 minutes? And all I'd like to do is get up front, and I'd just like to tell people that I'm looking for the following things that I would be able to pay with Bitcoin. And what I've found is, more often than not, either there's somebody in the crowd that actually offers that good or service that goes, I do that. I'd be more than happy to accept Bitcoin. Or they know somebody that does that thing. And that person might not be a Bitcoiner. There may be some weird kind of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing happening where they know a guy who knows a guy who's a barber. Okay, great. But you know what ends up happening is, later on, they cross paths, they're chatting, and the next topic of conversation is, I was at a Bitcoin meetup the other day, and a guy got up, and he said he was looking for a barber who would accept Bitcoin. And that may not orange pill them on the spot, but that's a touch point. That's an initial thought where they go, huh, that's interesting. Or they might say, I don't know, get them to reach out to me. Tell them to swing by, I'll give it a go. Either way, it spurs curiosity. And more often than not, it's better to ask than just leave it be. If you don't ask, you don't get. But you'll find you're going to be more successful than you initially thought. I also typically request at the meetups if anybody else has something that they're looking for to get up and ask for it. But more importantly, I feel like this is a super, super obvious thing, but everybody in this room already understands Bitcoin and that it's the better money. Also, everybody in this room has a skill, perhaps has a business, does a service, makes something. Why are all of you not accepting Bitcoin? If you have a business, if you do something already and you're not accepting Bitcoin, why not? It's the better money. You're earning dollars and you're purchasing Bitcoin already. Go do that. That is your one thing. If you do one thing, you are now accepting Bitcoin. You might not get a lot of people out the gate, but you are now accepting Bitcoin. You need to also tell people about it. You can't just put up a sticker and then disappear. You need to actively tell people. And there's various ways to do this. We'll get to that in the next slide. But number one is, at the meetup, try to do that. Requests. Go up and say, hey, this is what I do. I'm accepting Bitcoin. If anybody wants to reach out at any point or needs this good or service, let me know. I'm around. And you as an individual that is organizing as well, start building a list. Oh, locally we have this person and this person. Build a little email list, because this is going to be the seedlings that grow into your circular economy. So, as you begin to get more people that say, you know what, I am going to accept Bitcoin. Yes, you want to have it socially amongst yourselves, but you also want to have an online resource where people can actually find you. And so there's a few right here. BTCmap.org. I believe Nathan Day either has spoken or is speaking at some point about BTC Map, but it's awesome. And you can list yourself as a merchant that accepts Bitcoin. It will be on a map, and people can just look it up and find any Bitcoin accepting business nearby. And it's crowdsourced too, so people can go on and can verify if that business is still accepting Bitcoin or add edits to it. So it's very social. There's also another one, satmap.app. This one, while BTC Map is more for brick and mortar, SatMap can be used for maybe a regional service that doesn't have a brick and mortar location. So you can list yourself and say, I'm in this city, and maybe it's a remote service that goes to people's homes, or maybe it's whatever, but you can at least have yourself there. And then Orange Pill app also has a merchant section too, so you can list yourself there. So if you're accepting Bitcoin, which I know you're all going to do now because I've told you to do so, it would be great if you also added yourself to some of these online resources. The other thing that I think is important is, again, as you begin to build this group, make sure you're all socially connected so that you can easily chat with each other. You can easily jump into a group chat and say, hey, which one of you was the one that has the eggs? Because I need to stock up. And then you can just easily reach out. You just need a way to be able to start to build that local economy. So whatever your poison is, Telegram, Signal, Nostr, Orange Pill app, Meetup, whatever, have a group in one of those things, and then every time there's a meetup, you can just print out a little QR code that people can scan. So if they're new to the meetup, they can just scan it and they can join the group chat so that you actually have contact with each other on the ready. So let's say you've gotten to the point, you actually have a few merchants. You've built a little bit of community. What we've begun doing in my city is we now have, it's called the SAT market. And so back in December of this past year in 2023, with 3 weeks notice, we assembled a group of 35 merchants and we rented out a hall and we all got together and we had a Christmas market. And we had a ton of people come down. It was a lot of fun and people were just really genuinely excited to get together, not just in a meetup setting, but in a more social, economically social way. And so what are some of the things that you can do in terms of getting this set up? Number one, you just need to find a venue, and that will depend on how many merchants you have. It can be really small, that's fine. If there's 5 or 10 of you, that's okay. And once you find your venue, again, just Google venue or venue rental in your city. You can find them for pretty cheap if it's a small room. I managed to find one and I was able to just ask people to chip in a little bit to help cover the cost of the room. The first time I just paid for it out of pocket and I just wanted to get people there. And people were more than happy to contribute. They just really enjoyed it. So look, find a spot, take the initiative. When you get there, it's pretty basic. You need some chairs and tables, maybe some signage. We just printed off some signs and taped them up on the walls and on the doors and everything so people knew where they were going. But you don't need a ton to start off. You just need a place for people to assemble. Invite all of the meetup attendees, even the ones obviously that aren't merchants. You want all the Bitcoiners in your area to be aware and that they can come. But don't just invite the attendees of the meetup. Say, bring your friends and family down. Come socialize, have a reason for them to be there, and I'll talk about what you could have at the event to entice people to come down. But try and use people's connections to build more of a swell. And then, of course, create your event on popular apps and websites, whether it be Meetup, Orange Pill app, whatever, Facebook groups, whatever it may be, but create those easily findable events so people can search it out and let people know at the meetup that it's happening regularly. So some things to have at the event. Again, signage with QR codes so anybody walking in the door can join up to those social groups that you have, so those group chats. Same with event pages, vendor websites, whatever you want, have it easily scannable so people can click it right away. Food and drink on site is big, especially accepting Bitcoin for it, because it just doesn't look as great if it's you got to pay with a credit card. Figure out how you can make that happen. We were lucky that we found an event that was super keen, and they did have a bit of a concession. They said, listen, we can learn how to accept Bitcoin if you just swap us out for cash at the end of it. So that's what we did, and that's fine. And now they're kind of curious. They're coming to it, and that's great. We're leading them down a pathway. Also, have an education booth. Have a booth where people can walk up. Maybe they came with a friend or family member, and they don't have a wallet. They don't know how to use Bitcoin. This is their first time, but they want to partake. They want to go and buy something for Bitcoin, or they're going to try it out. So have that booth there with one or two people on the ready, just to help people set up wallets. Have a nice sign, learn about Bitcoin here, get your first wallet, whatever it may be. And then consider having a brief talk or some Q&As, or one thing that we did that was really good and we've continued to do every time, have a giveaway and have the vendors there contribute something to the giveaway and do a little raffle at the end. You'll pull names out of a hat and give something away. I try to bring something every single time, but it's gone really, really well. Now, obviously, you don't want to live in a vacuum. You don't want this just to be a single bubble. You want to reach outside of your current cohort. So where can you go to find others that might partake and might start to begin learning about Bitcoin? So one thing that we've done is we've started going to visit other local farmers markets with flyers for our own. And so we'll just go through and we'll go up to vendors and say, oh, here, we're having a market as well. You should come to it. You've got great stuff here. It's a Bitcoin-friendly market. And so the way it works is you can come, you can sell your stuff as normal. We'll show you how to use this app so you can accept payments in Bitcoin. And if you don't want to keep the Bitcoin at the end of the day, don't worry. We can swap you out for cash, no problem. But it's just another market for you to come from, and you can sell your goods there. And more often than not, a lot of people are interested, to say the least, and some people will come and partake, and then you've begun the orange pill process. There are some other local communities that may be useful to tap into. A lot of precious metals people, gold and silver bugs, they're like one step separated from being a Bitcoiner. They get the sound money aspect of it, and they just need that little push to get there. So if you can tap into kind of your precious metals community in and around town, that could be an inroads for you. Also, often there will be barter communities that pop up. A lot of those people too, they like the idea of exiting fiat and finding other ways to transact. So see if there's a barter community where you are. And then of course, anybody that's freedom oriented in general will gravitate towards Bitcoin. So, use your discretion, find the local communities that may apply. It's great to provide simple online educational resources. And when I say that, like maybe a single video about how to use a wallet, and you can just have that blanket for the entire group, and any newcomers can just really simply look it up and see how to use it. But you can also maybe do like a video call with everybody and just do some demo sends back and forth and get people started. And it's really important that they be using Lightning because our first market that we did in Calgary was when the fees spiked to 600 sats per byte on that day. And so Bitcoin transactions were like $60 a pop. But almost nobody at the market even noticed because we onboarded them beforehand and said, okay, everybody get one of these wallets. Here's a bunch of options depending on your skill level and depending on how hardline you are on self-custody versus ease of use. And so we gave people a range of options. And honestly, most people were completely unfazed by the fee bump that day. They just showed up. I didn't realize that fees were high until like noon. So it does work. And again, as you're going through these markets, as you're meeting these people, collect emails of those that seem to be interested and follow up. You have to continue to take action. You can't just leave it be. Keep reaching out. Now, I mentioned that some of these new merchants that are not Bitcoin native yet, they may want cash at the end of the day. This creates a unique opportunity because you also have Bitcoiners there. And when you have merchants that also accept cash and merchants that want cash at the end of the day, you create an opportunity where you suddenly have an opportunity to have peer-to-peer non-KYC Bitcoin locally. And so it could be as simple as just having a special sticker and slapping it on the booths that are looking to cash out throughout the day. And then maybe people that know what's up because you've got a group chat going can approach those booths and say, hey, I've got $100 here. Can I buy some sats? And those merchants will be more than happy to offload their sats if they're brand new. They'll come to regret it later, obviously. But you create this unique kind of circular cash to Bitcoin economy as well. Now, I added in this slide here after listening to a friend of mine a few weeks ago at the Canadian Bitcoin conference. So it was actually two of them, Francis Pouliot and the artist featured here a lot, Madex. And they were both on stage, and a topic came up in and around strategically orange pilling people. And Francis said that he's now very selective in who he orange pills because it's a service. It takes time. You're doing somebody a favor. And who do you most want around if shit hits the fan? Who do you want having your back? You're going to want people that are productive, people that build high-quality items or offer high-quality services. You're going to want people that offer a wide variety of different things. You don't want 20 people selling Bitcoin hats. You want farmers that have beef and chicken and eggs and produce. You want tradesmen. You want plumbers and people that do flooring and roofing and barbers and people that offer services that you actually need day to day. It's nice to have the other stuff too, but you can't have 35 merchants that are all selling Bitcoin swag. You need some variety. So look for that. Again, having freedom-oriented people is important, and trying to culminate a group that exudes those values. And a lot of people will come to this because they understand that. And then also, spend your time on people that are curious, not ones that are combative. The only thing more scarce than Bitcoin is your time. And if you're wasting your time on somebody that's going to fight you on every single point, you could have spent that time pushing somebody over the edge that was just about there. So take the easy wins, get that low-hanging fruit. And then support local. Once you onboard people, don't just leave them hanging. Go and frequent their businesses. If you have local merchants, go to them. This is a map of Prague. This is on BTC Map. These are local merchants. Look how many there are. Go out and spend some sats in Prague after this. And one thing, I didn't understand how it worked when I got here, but there's an app. I'm not sure how to say it. Maybe somebody can tell me after. But Kirko? I don't know. I butchered that for sure. Either way, there's an app. It allows you to scan a QR code at your table or wherever you are and pay your bill in Bitcoin with Lightning, so check that out. I'm going to go through these really quick because I'm running out of time, but some potential tools you might want to use, and check out my talk tomorrow because I'm going to be getting more in depth with some of these tools. Some of these slides will be recycled. So I really like Mutiny Wallet as an initial onboarding. Aqua Wallet is quite convenient. Fedimint, the Fedi app, Fedi Bravo, is ideal for small communities. I'm very excited about what they're doing. And if you're hardline self-custody, Phoenix and Zeus are excellent. Please scan this slide to find tutorials on everything I briefly mentioned, and you will find more of it tomorrow on the main stage. Thank you guys very much.